So I'm talking about Pope Francis. He's back in the news again. Real popular guy. Pope Francis said that he made some kind of a comment that is causing a lot of confusion with Catholic and people outside of catechism in other churches. He said that homosexuality is not a crime. Okay, uh, it's not a crime. It doesn't warrant um, criminal charges, if you will. Okay, we understand that. But what is he? He hasn't really clearly defined what he's expecting of people's behavior. Now, does it mean that it's off the sodomistic list as far as he's concerned? Does it mean that, let's say, for example, in a Sunday school setting, in a church setting at Sunday school, uh, with religion, there's actually no age limit as to when you can start teaching kids about Christianity. So if a Sunday school teacher is at Sunday school, you're teaching little kids, and you have, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 year old um, doing the huggy huggy, kissy kissy, boy and boy, girl and girl. How do you explain that as a teacher? Um, would the Pope say you have no right to say that's inappropriate behavior? Do you encourage a behavior like that? So I really think that the Pope, is really merging into a broader political spectrum, if you will. One of the things that we really isn't seeing, we're not hearing much about, is that the United Nations, um, the United Nations has this UN-EU treaty, and the African bishops are not signing on, but they are expecting this treaty. Um that is it's a political thing, and under that treaty, the UN EU treaty they call it. Under that treaty, you have what they call sustainable development program, uh, abortion on demand, mandatory LGBTQ plus rights, reproductive rights. And so bishops in Africa sense that those kind of stuff will impact the way they present religion, the way they preach, the way they talk to their congregation about God and the whole value system. Um, so what what the EU has done, they have created a block that they call the ACP treaty block, and that block comprises of 79 developing countries. 79. So the ACP, the A stands for Africa. Africa has 9 countries in there. The C stands for Caribbean. The Caribbean has 16 countries. And the P stands for Pacific Islands, and they have 15 um, countries in that group. So now, if these countries sign on to something like that and they don't follow all these rights that falls under the UN uh, EU treaty, this whole they could it could be criminalized in these priests could find themselves in big trouble. You know. It's an economic treaty. Now, all of this thing has a lot of racism involved in all of this kind of works that is going on with the Catholic Church. Because you look at it, they target the most vulnerable countries, Africa. I mean, a lot of the people who are members of the Catholic Church in Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific Islands, they depend a lot on the Catholic Church, especially in time of disaster. They need special aid. These countries are just coming along. A lot of them are pretty young, got independence recently. I'm talking about, maybe 30, 40, 50 years of independence. They're still pretty young. And so they need a lot of help. So this whole thing by the Catholic Church, it's a whole racist thing. They are cutting into the culture of these, sovereign nations. The way these people, these countries that I just mentioned, they have their own way of, they have their own culture, they have their own way of presenting the Bible. There are certain things that they seriously value, and they don't want to change that. However, the Catholic Church doesn't care anymore. This Bishop Francis really doesn't care. Take, for example, this country in Africa, Malawi. The Bishop of Malawi. The man says, come hell or high water. If two men or two women walk up to him, holding hands, and said to him, we are gays, and we want you to bless us because we are gays. We want you to bless us. He said he's not going to do that, and he's in his own right to refuse based on his values and his culture and the way he interprets the Bible. But of course, Europe doesn't see it like that. The World Health Organization, WHO, they are part of this whole thing too. You have the Bill Gates Foundation. And the Bill Gates Foundation, as we know, they have been talking about, well, there are too many people on Earth. We have to reduce the population of the amount of people we have on Earth. And they are focusing, Bill Gates is focusing primarily on Africa. He thinks that, there are too many people in Africa. And the population is growing. He's talking about the fact that, with all these Africans, people in the Caribbean and in the Pacific Island, it's affecting climate change. So this whole thing, Pope Francis is part of it. So it's whites forcing blacks to accept white cultural behavior and this extreme stuff that they are leaning toward. So this whole thing, it's just horrible. Europeans, they know best. They know what's best for Africans and people of color in general. So what I would say is that people who does not believe in the Pope's behavior, Catholics or the people, or the religious organizations that are looking into this, have to find a way to fight off the globalists and the neocons. This is Diabala, and I thank you.